Hello friends, welcome to the third week of our data cleaning activities, and today I'm going to take you through a dataset that comes from the ggplot library. Now, first things first, as we have been talking about, you load the library. We're loading in ggplot2. Once it's loaded, we have to look for the datasets within the package using the data function, passing in the name of the package. So as you can see, we have diamonds, economics, mpg, msleep, sales. Okay, for this particular week, I've chosen to use msleep. So let's go back. Next, you load that dataset in using the data function, data, passing in the dataset name. Run that. Let's check. As you can see, it is loaded into the global environment. Next, we need to save that as some other variable, that is sleep for this case. When we run that, we have our variable, our dataset being saved as sleep. Next thing, we need to validate the data. Maybe before we do that, we find out the information regarding this dataset using question mark and the name followed by the name of the dataset. So let's expand this a bit. As you can see, dataset records mammal sleep, the sleep times, the weights, and then excuse me. So we have the name, the genus, the order, conservation, sleep total amount of sleep in hours, the sleep REM in hours, the sleep cycle, length of the sleep cycle in hours awake, amount of time that the mammal spent awake in hours, the brain WT, that's brain weight in kilograms, body WT, body weight in kilograms. So we have that covered. Next, we can use the view function to inspect our dataset, or you might as well just come here to the global environment and click this icon, the dataset icon. You double click and you can see that our dataset appears. Our dataset appears. As we can see, we're already having some NA values appearing in the table. Some values are too many decimal places to the right. We'll need to rectify that. Yeah, let's get started with our cleaning. So first things first, we load the required packages. So I'm loading in dplyr, tidyr, and string r. Too many r's. Okay. The glimpse function helps us to identify the data structure. So let's see what sort of structure our data is having today. We have a bunch of character variables and then the numeric DBL double, that is numeric variables. Okay. Next, let's check for some missing values. We use the any NA and then passing in the dataset. So as you can see in the console, they're telling us that it is true. There are NA values within the dataset. So let's count these datasets per each of the columns using the call sum function as seen previously. So from here we see 7 in var, 29 conservation, 22 sleep REM, 51 sleep cycle, and 27 brain weight. Now let's start with the categorical variables or character variables, var and conservation. Using the replace underscore NA function, you pass in the value you want the NA values to be replaced with, and in our case we're using unknown. The unknown in wrapped around quotes. So the code here is basically written that for the variable var of the sleep dataset, go ahead and replace the NA values with unknown, and then save it back to the variable. If you do not do this, it will give you a bunch of values within the console, and then there is no actual change that is saved to the variable. So make sure to assign it back to the variable in question. So let's run this for both conservation and var. We are going to replace them with unknown. So let's run. Now if we check for NA values again, for this particular values, we should be able to have 0. So as you can see, var is having 0, conservation is also having a 0. Next, let's look at the numeric variables, sleep REM, sleep cycle, and brain weight. And I've chosen to go with median. Most times I choose to use median because it's less prone to outliers. In case the dataset is skewed to any direction, it can take care of that. Otherwise, if your dataset is symmetrical, it's better to use the mean value or the average. So let's calculate median of sleep REM. Setting na.remove to true, the default is false. So if you leave it as false, you'll get an NA value within the console. Setting it to true allows calculation to be done without the NA values. Therefore, we get our answer, that is 1.5. That is for the sleep REM. And then for the sleep cycle, we do the same. We get 0.333, etc. Next, we calculate the one for brain weight. We get a 0.0124. Now, these values, we are using it with the replace underscore NA function that we used earlier. This time around, we are passing, you basically do what you did earlier. You call the variable of interest, use the NA function, the replace underscore NA function, passing in the median value that you've calculated respectively, and then you can go ahead and run everything. So let's run this, and when we check to see whether the NA values have been replaced, is.NA, we have sleep as our dataset. Let's run. run this. Great, everything is covered. So there are no more NA values within this dataset. And it would have actually been easier if you didn't really want to go through the hurdle of writing all that function. You can just use the any.na, enter in the sleep dataset, and then when we run that, false as opposed to true. So there is no NA value within the dataset. Lastly, for this session, we have to remember that the dataset was having quite a number of the variables having too many decimal places to the right. We'd like to reduce that for readability and to make our work easier. So I choose to use 2 decimal places using the round function that comes from the base package of R. You pass in the variable of interest and the number of decimal places that you're interested in having your values recorded in. So in this case, we are recording them to 2 decimal places. So when we run this, run, and then we check our data set, we inspect the data set again. We should now see that change registered. Beautiful! As you can see, the values have been recorded to 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places. Very good. Yeah, that marks the end of our data cleaning for this particular week. I hope you loved the learning. I hope you got something helpful this week. And I look forward to seeing you for the last episode of the data cleaning activities for this month. And then we can go into something else the next time. So if you like this video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to the channel so that you're updated on any new releases. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Happy learning.